Are integration tests better than unit tests? Let's see what Kevlin Henney says about it. Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech support said they're coming out and closing that bad boy up soon. I hope. And I'm going to be watching or reacting to this Kevlin Henney. I really like Kevlin. He's probably one of my favorite software architecture guys. He's got the best takes. But Dev2 made simulated dual clips, and I'm reacting to them. And I did a streak of Uncle Bob's. So I'm leaving Uncle Bob alone for a little while. I might get back to him because he's my favorite one to beat up because he's so vague and goofy. And let's see what Kevlin has to say.
One of the things is that actually we know we should be testing more, but
really, I don't know if that's necessarily true.
The point is that software kind of runs the world these days.
I mean, it's been that way for a while, but it's like, does it really run it? Because it's still people using machines hooked up to these things that still, I mean, it's running part of the world. Okay.
In a way that perhaps it hasn't before. It's quite critical.
I mean, I guess so, yes.
In many cases, people say, well, it's too difficult for us to start testing. It's too much of a challenge. And all of our testing, people like to point to the fact that everything's about integration issues. There's plenty of memes about unit testing versus integration testing. No, the only reason people ever encourage integration testing over unit testing is because they can't unit test. This is what we call motivated reasoning. In other words, motivated reasoning is, I can't do that, so I'm going to make a very strong claim for the other.
Well, I mean, these systems have not been designed for the testing in mind. The testing stuff came later. And it's really surprising that these things haven't been designed to have testing that we need to really lean on them, and that we are leaning on them without them being designed this way. It's like, we need to do better, guys, with this stuff. We need it from the ground up to be able to get a test harness in there, not as an afterthought bolt on. Oh, we can kind of do it this way and kind of like, no, it has to be integrated as a core element. If we want these issues to go away. Let's keep going.
How do I unit test this? I have no idea. You know, unit testing is not a great idea. Why? Because we can't do it. Therefore, we will advocate integration testing. Integration testing is, of course, important, but it's nowhere near as effective as unit testing.
I mean, do you have a study to back that up? It says the simple testing can prevent most code. Yes, there's that. But are you saying that there's one is better than the other? Do you have a study for that, Kevlin?
It gives you false ideas of coverage, integration testing does.
Well, that's true, too. I mean, just the test coverage in general, because it's only covering the test cases that you test. So there's a whole, like, gaping, because, yes, a lot of this integration stuff, very difficult to test. They don't make it easy. And setting up your app to mock test it isn't really testing, because you're not testing the thing. You're testing your mock. And that's, like, hard to explain this to people. It's like, okay, we need to make your stuff so we can have some sort of test account. It's like, well, we don't really do it. That's not how it's done here. That's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of work to do. It's also a lot of work when things fail and we lose customers to somebody else who is taking care of this kind of stuff. All right, that's the thing. It's like, I keep on trying to, like, hey, somebody else is probably going to do this. We don't. There's been a lot of complaints. All right, let's
and more importantly, it doesn't, when people look at this, and this is the interesting thing from this paper from 2014, simple testing can prevent most critical failures.
Okay, possibly. How do you even test for that?
Analysis of production failures in distributed data-intensive systems. In other words, the great joy of modern software architectures, particularly open source, is that we can go out and find the data. And so they did.
Okay, cool.
The majority of the production failures, 3/4, can be reproduced by a unit test. Now,
oh shit, that's bad. Yeah, but the thing about it, here's the other thing, Kevlin. Are they teaching testing in schools and academia? They aren't. What do you mean they aren't? They're not testing it? Why are they teaching testing? Why are they teaching version control? Why are they teaching all these methodologies in college where it's fourth year we do operating systems? Like, no. Fourth year not do operating systems. Fourth year do, like, first year do Git. Second year do monitoring and test. Like, first year do testing. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, we're doing testing anyway. You just call it something else. You're like, we're going to call this test driven development. It's like, or you're just like writing things that you give it the input and it just checks to see if the output is correct. Now it's testing. It's like, I call it exercising or examplizing. It's examplizing your code instead of our testing and a test suite. It's more like the examplizing suite. It's like, what does that mean? So we're showing all the things we think it's supposed to do, but that's not all things it can do. It's not going to be. We haven't fixed the halting problem.
Of course, that doesn't mean that you could have prevented it, because many things related to unit testing and many errors that get through are errors of assumption. They're gaps in things we assumed.
Absolutely.
That's fine. We're always going to have that issue. But it does turn out
thank you
that
for admitting that.
if you put a little more effort, you can get a lot more reward. It turns out that these things which were in, let's recap, production failures in distributed data-intensive systems, that makes you think, oh, right, so most of the problems were to do with the distribution aspect, just like not having an IP address for your printers. No. 3/4 of these can come down to a simple piece of code. The little off-by-one errors, the little, oh, you've returned a nan, I was not expecting that. All of those little things, it turns out, these are little things that then compound to be something much larger.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. Yeah, they do compound. Yeah, that's kind of scary. So yeah, there's but this has to be taught at a lower level than before you show up for your first day at work. Because okay, we got to write tests. People go, what's a test? I mean, we don't really, and also like UI testing. It's like that's another black box mystery thing everybody talks about. I guess I should do a video on that, but like it's just so boring. People don't want to hear about it. It's like you need to show like examplizing XX. We need to change the word from test driven to like example driven development. I mean, maybe that's my next series. Anyway, give me a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.